Welcome to Lawyers Without Billboards, where we break down family law and other areas of the law. No gimmicks, no legal jargon, just real, unfiltered talk from real lawyers. Join your hosts, Steve, Patty, Jimmy, and Alexa, partners at Shewmaker & Lewis, a law firm based in Atlanta, Georgia. Every episode, they tackle the legal questions that matter most: divorce, custody, child support, alimony, and everything in between. They'll pull back the curtain to give you real insights on what happens inside the courtroom and beyond.
Here we go. Shewmaker and Lewis, Lawyers Without Billboards. Because wait, let me mention a quick poll. Did any of you rent a billboard this week?
No, not this week.
We don't have a billboard. Why are we proud of the fact that we don't have billboards?
I think because we get clients anyway.
Okay.
So cheesy.
Cheesy. Anything else?
They're expensive.
They're expensive.
They're
Obnoxious. Okay.
And everyone's picture is always like,
Oh, I love the personal injury pose.
there's more than one of them.
Yeah.
It's this.
I love it.
Or they look serious.
Yes.
You know.
Basically, we just don't want to go in that direction.
Yeah, no, it's
All
true.
right. Lawyers Without Billboards, Shoemaker Lewis, take it away.
All right.
What's the topic?
Again, we've been talking a lot about custody. Well, again,
Big
do a lot.
topic.
It is a big topic.
Girl.
In custody cases, what do
you're a
judges
classy
hate?
mean girl.
Stop.
Okay.
Stop. What do judges hate? And what do attorneys hate?
Affidavits of election.
Jimmy.
Well, okay, besides Jimmy.
Varies.
Affidavits of election.
Affidavits of election. What are affidavits of election?
Piece of paper.
More
At its
A notarized piece of paper.
At its core, you're not wrong.
An affidavit of election is a piece of paper notarized. So a notary has to sign it.
Yep.
Saying that they saw the child sign it. It has to be a child age 14 or higher, and the piece of paper needs to say, "I love my mom, but I want to live with my dad."
It doesn't have to be 14.
Yeah, they can be 11 to 14.
Yeah.
Well,
Tell me more about that.
yeah, let's break that down.
Break it down.
Break it down.
14 or older, it qualifies as a material change in circumstances.
Right. We talked about that.
11 to 14, it's something that judge can consider, but it doesn't carry the same weight.
Is it true that at a certain point in the past, a judge had to
Honor.
honor an affidavit of election, but that changed in what year? In Georgia.
Ooh, I don't know what year it changed, but it did change.
Yeah.
And my favorite quote from judges goes something like this. I've heard many judges say it. A child can't have sex. A child can't drive a car till a certain age. Until a certain age. A child can't vote. A child can't own property. All these things are bestowed upon a person at certain age, and the age isn't the same for all these different rights. Sure. But at no point in time can a 14-year-old tell me, a superior court judge, what I'm going to do in a custody case. So the law did change. I forget what year it was. It's been at least 10 years.
Yeah.
I was going to say 2014 if I had to guess.
No, earlier than that.
Was it before?
Yeah. But the law now in the state of Georgia is that that it's a ticket to the courthouse. The affidavit in and of itself is a material change in circumstance. As I said in a previous episode, a damn good reason to come to court.
There it is.
But a judge doesn't have to follow. What does a judge follow?
A judge still has to do what's best, the best interest of the child. That's still. But
Exactly.
but
One knows.
but the reality is, so okay. So does a judge have to, under the current law, does a judge have to honor an affidavit of election by a 14-year-old? No. Judge still has to determine that it's in the best interest of the child.
And this has been my experience. You guys tell me if you've seen differently. Well, let me ask you this. Have any of you had an affidavit of election at 14-year-old or older that the judge said, no, I'm not going to change custody?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
What was going on?
So I think partially it was because there was a younger child as well who had signed an affidavit of election, and ultimately the guardian recommended that it wasn't in the best interest of the kids for them to transition to live with dad.
Why? What's the backstory?
It's very case specific. There were big differences in parenting styles and philosophies between both parents.
Was dad the do whatever you want parent?
No.
Was he a
Actually, dad was more strict. Dad was more strict, but it was
You have to pump.
a lot of it was almost religious philosophy that was not ultimately, according to the guardian, in the best interest.
good.
of the kids.
Religion. Religion pops up a lot. Hey, how you feel about coming to my church? We do that thing with the snakes.
Oh, yeah.
Hard no.
No hard.
Thanks, though.
Jimmy, have you ever had one? Because I've never had one.
The snake?
No.
No, that either.
No,
I had one in my
a
bedroom
couple
one
over at
time.
the property, but they were just big king
You
snakes.
heard my story about when I was a kid in high school? and there was a snake in my bedroom.
I've heard this story.
No, but I had to get one out of the office upstairs.
So you've had to get 2 out of the office upstairs.
Has it been? Oh, yeah.
It's been 2. Patty had one,
know,
I had one.
What I regret not doing on our canoe
Not
trip is having a
intentionally.
rubber snake and throwing it in Tuscan's canoe. That would have been funny.
No, because he might have ended up in the water and there could have been a very real threat of an alligator. Come on.
You know,
Yeah.
And Tuscan's not very big. The alligator would have eaten my,
Yeah,
that
he is
that
alligator
13
worthy.
foot would have been awful.
and
Yeah,
and I
and
know
done.
it's not that I know his parents, it's his mother.
Now
Kelly would kill me.
Yeah,
okay,
probably
okay.
true.
So what actually would have been funny on Floyd Island? So I saw one.
You talk about when we canoed the Okefenokee a
Yes.
couple weeks ago. Yeah.
I saw a video recently. A guy had basically
Spit it out, dear.
he basically created something with a fake snake and like tossed it into the guy's tent, but had it hooked to him.
Yeah.
And so the guy thought that the snake was on him, and he ended up just like flailing in his tent trying to get away. Knocked his tent into the river. It was,
That's awful.
you know, with friends like that, who needs
The
enemies?
next time we go, we're gonna do like fake spiders,
No.
fake snakes. Yeah.
Thank God we don't go on this trip.
Yeah, no.
Can we just go to Chateau Lawn or
do a
something?
spa- wine-
Yeah, okay.
wine and
okay,
spa.
yeah.
Vino
We'll
therapy.
just
Vino
Vino therapy.
therapy.
Spa
at
therapy,
Chateau Lawn.
vino therapy.
I want
All
a hell
right,
of a
so
massage.
help me
yeah.
out here. The
no,
child
no.
signs the affidavit.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about this. Do you have a philosophy? Don't you can't use the same joke.
No
same point.
philosophizing?
I hate podcast days. All right. Do you have a philosophy about what do you say to the parent who's bringing you the child before the child comes in, and then how do you handle the child? Talk to me about that.
Okay. I generally don't like affidavits of election. The reason I don't like affidavits of election is because usually
Focus.
you have a parent
Squirrel.
talking to the child about custody, and I don't usually like it.
Okay.
And I actually, my most recent case where I filed an affidavit of election, the client, she was a longtime client,
yeah.
the longest client we've ever had. So,
Ah.
so now you
I know who
Yeah,
you, I know
yeah,
who
yeah.
you're talking about. Yeah, yeah.
And
Good lady though.
She, when her child turned, when her child was still 13, the child was like, "I want to come live with you, Mom." And she's like, "You do just be cool. We just, And she like she put the child off until the child was 15. And the child was like, "No,
Can't, yeah.
absolutely." And she finally she was like, "Okay." And she contacted me and said, "Okay."
Yep.
And we had several conversations about it. And really, she put him off because she's like, "Look, it's your dad's gonna
Lose
have
his
a
shit.
fit, not like it, make life miserable. It's not really good for you." Until
Yep.
the child just really put his foot down and said, "No, we're going to do this."
Knowing the facts of this case and these people, at a certain point, you do have to worry about this child's well-being.
Yes. Yeah.
Mental, yeah.
that-
In
and
theory, you
that's-
should always be worrying
and
about
that's-
that, but
In this
that's
case in
the-
particular, yeah.
yeah.
So typically, when I have a client who has a child that wants to sign an affidavit of election, I typically do not meet with the child. I have another attorney meet with the
Now
child.
let's focus on that.
Yeah.
Because I may be. And now, when you say another attorney, you mean outside of our firm?
Yeah, or I've also, in the past, I have used Jim Holmes.
I've had
He's
Jim too.
he's
Okay.
a counsel. He has
All
a
right.
background in guardian ad litem.
I don't do that, and maybe I should, but I don't.
I've done either. I've done both.
I've never had it blow up on me, although it's not unheard of for the attorney on the other side to see this affidavit and then go get an affidavit from the child. So now
The
the child
opposite
has
way.
opposite affidavits, and I've
Yeah.
had that happen to me too. But here's where I'm going with this. A couple of years ago, was it not propounded in a public forum
Yep.
that you shall not have an affidavit from a child unless the child goes to a separate attorney or a guardian? Was that not propounded?
It was.
And was that true or false?
It was not true.
It's
It was
not,
not true.
it's not true. The law doesn't require
Yeah, it's not
it.
required.
I think it's good practice because
Yeah.
then there's no question. There's always going to be the question, because the other side's almost invariably going to say, well, Mom forced the child to sign the
Yeah, or
affidavit,
dad,
or
yeah.
Dad forced the child to sign the
That's
affidavit.
usually the only other.
Yeah.
That's the defense, right? It's
but-
the nuh-uh.
Yeah, but let's be fair. Do affidavits of election get abused?
All the time.
I had a case where Mom took the two teenagers, put them in the bedroom, and wouldn't let them leave until they signed affidavits.
Or, hey,
And they're teenagers. They want to go hang out
Hey,
with
I'll
their
buy you a
friends.
car.
hey, did you just get a new truck?
Right.
Yeah.
A new rifle?
Yeah.
I get it. Now, I have met with children, and I talk to them like adults. And I say, this is the most adult thing you've probably done so far. I'm not going to treat you like a kid. Sometimes I videoed it.
I always record it.
Audio recorded it. But I never play around. I never try to convince the kid. I never make a promise. I just say, hey, if you want to do this, it's fine. And I've had kids say, no, I don't want to do it.
Right.
Great. Okay. I've had kids do it. Now, am I wrong because as an attorney, I meet with the kid and not send him to somebody else? Some people would say yes.
Yeah.
It's not illegal. It's not unethical. Nothing wrong with it. It's just a stylistic issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say, making adult decisions.
Oh, yeah.
On the flip side of that, where I've represented the client or the parent who was the primary and the child has filed an
Opposing it,
affidavit to live with the other party, and I say to them, I've said this. I said, look, your child is 14, 15, and they want to make adult decisions, well, then you need to go let them live the consequences of those adult decisions because that's called being an adult.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they just will learn now.
Are you going to want what you get if you get what you want?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
All right. Now I want to ask you guys this. Have you, because I've had this come up like twice in the last 6 months. Have you guys ever had a case where the child has signed an affidavit regarding visitation?
I have not.
There is no
But I
such
know people
thing.
keep trying to do it.
Well, okay, in the classic
Not
sense.
supposed to be such a thing.
In the classic sense, an affidavit from a child electing to live with one parent or the other could trigger a custody modification. There is no, on the one hand, I would tell you there's no such thing as an affidavit from a child expressing a desire to modify parenting time.
Right.
However, let us not forget that fundamentally in motions practice, so in drafting and filing motions with the court, saying to the court, I need you to make a decision, oftentimes it is acceptable, if not good practice, to attach an affidavit, and all that affidavit tells a judge is in reading this motion, if I bring the affiant, the person into court, they're going to say this.
Right.
We know they're going to say this because heaven forbid they come into court and say the opposite of their affidavit, which is sworn testimony. So it is absolutely good practice. We don't do it enough in domestic law to attach affidavits from parties, from witnesses, from anybody to substantiate a fact. So in that sense, you could have an affidavit from a child. The question becomes, are you attaching the affidavit of an 8-year-old?
Right.
Are you going too far?
Well, okay, but let's take it a step further. Can a 14-year-old elect not to go on visitation?
No. No.
Okay. Did you read? Okay, I sent you all a case called Prater versus Wheeler. Did you read it? No.
Bueller?
I didn't realize there was homework for this assignment.
Let's take a vote. Everybody who hates Patty, raise your hand. Right?
All right, but that's okay. That's okay because I want to talk to you guys about
Talk to us.
because this has come up. I kid you not. I have a case where a parent filed a petition to modify visitation based on a 14-year-old affidavit electing to not go on visitation with dad.
You can modify parenting once in every 2-year period because it's Tuesday.
Yes, but you know what mom and the child want visitation to be?
Zero.
None.
Zero contact.
Zip.
How is that in the best interest of the child?
So, okay, but
Well,
then,
that's a big question.
But then here's the thing. The petition cites this case, Prater versus Wheeler. And Prater versus Wheeler, if you read, there's one line in it where it says, 14-year-olds can elect not to go on visitation. And
which court said that?
Hold on. Court of Appeals. Hold on.
Wow.
Hold on.
Okay, I'm holding.
And that's what the attorney cites in the petition.
Okay.
Says that this is allowed and a 14-year-old can make this election. But if you read the rest of the sentence, because this is not a new case. This is like a 1980 something or 90s case.
That's why I didn't read it.
Because you don't read anything older than 5 years. I know.
That's right.
So he told me that once. It was like the stupidest thing. When we were dating.
It
Like,
wasn't.
I
It's
don't-
not in a legal context. That's not fair. I'm being victimized.
It's
If you refuse to be victimized by Regina George, raise your hand.
it's like your army buddy getting an au pair. You just don't get one that was before 1990 or before 2000.
All right. So
What's the point?
So if you read the whole case, and if you read the rest of that sentence, it says a 14-year-old can elect to go on visitation, but if that's done without a court order, meaning the court order needs to say that, meaning it's got to be subject to judicial review.
Right.
But I have that case, and then I had a potential client call me, and even say, well, my child doesn't want to go on visitation.
and then cite the case. Well, isn't there a case, Prater versus Wheeler? And I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And what's interesting is, I have another case, and we have a child psychologist and doing reunification therapy. And
You can be a psychologist that young? You got to be way ahead of the school.
Doogie Howser,
child
man.
Yeah,
reunification
hello.
therapy? No. Yeah, okay, anyway. Jeez.
Sorry, my bad.
I don't think he got the reference.
Yeah,
I did
Mom-
get the reference.
And so Mom
I
is
was
like,
too cool to watch that show in the 90s.
Of course you
Mom
I
is-
didn't- I
Stop.
never even watched
Mom
that
is
show.
like, okay, well, the child, she doesn't want to go because Dad makes her feel uncomfortable. Okay, hello,
Oh,
she's a
geez.
teenager,
Right. Everybody's uncomfortable
Yeah.
around her.
And so Mom's like, so she shouldn't have to go. And it's like psychologist looked at Mom and said, if your child doesn't want to go to school, you cannot make her go to
Right.
school.
Right.
That's right. Child doesn't want to take a shower.
Child doesn't want to go to the doctor.
There you go.
Well,
Yeah.
look,
Shit, I
had
hated the doctor when I still hate the doctor. But
I had a client not that long
Still
ago
have to
that
go.
they had one child who was 14-year-old female, and I represented Mom, and like we'd gotten everything settled, and she was like, "But look, like realistically, what am I supposed to do when she doesn't want to go to Dad's
Yeah.
house?" And I said,
But there's a flip side.
"I said, open up your trunk and lift with your legs, not your back."
I tell
and it's
Beautiful.
it's quiet for about 5 seconds, and I was like, I don't know if that bombed or if that hit really well. And then she starts laughing. She was like, "What is wrong with you?" And I was like,
So many
been doing
things.
this a long
well,
time.
I
so.
have told
But-
several people that.
and all I told her, I said, "Look, encourage her the best that you can."
No,
Yeah.
be a
Right.
parent.
Jimmy,
Be a
it
parent.
makes me
Yeah.
feel
You
good to
have to
hear
go.
you say that because here's the deal. I have heard from other attorneys, well, the child doesn't want to.
You can't force him to go. You can't make him go.
Okay, and I've told my clients when they say that, I'm like, okay, here's the deal. What do you do to your what do you do for your or to your child when they misbehave? You take away their phone,
Right.
take away their computer,
Right.
you take away privileges, take away driving privileges. You make that child go be with the other parent, and they need to figure it out because judges have said, I have authority over this 15-year-old for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
After that, that child's an adult. I can't touch it. This is the time
Yeah.
we repair that relationship
Yeah.
right now,
Yeah.
and we don't wait.
Yeah.
And those are the judges I love.
What do you do to your child if they refuse to go to school? You make them go to
You
school.
make them go
Right.
to school,
You be a
and
par-
you
and-
take away that horse,
That's right.
Molly.
There
If
you
you're
go.
listening,
Yeah, Molly, go to school.
Molly's
take
not
that
listening to
horse,
this.
huh?
No, she has been. Molly is.
She's like
listen.
super pumped about
If
it.
Molly
actually.
listens to this episode and she says the following words to me, "Parsi don't wear no hat," I'll give her $50.
How about that?
Go ahead.
You'll give her $50 anyway.
I might.
Sucker.
I might. But if she comes to
Such
me
a
and
sucker.
says
Oh my
that, then I'll know
God.
she listened to this podcast.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Can't get Alexa's dad to listen to this podcast.
He listens to this podcast.
Alexa and Jimmy's kids won't listen to this podcast.
That's 100% true.
That's right.
Oh, you can make Zach and Zoe. And
Oh, we'll
Ace
play it
and
for 'em.
Addie.
Yeah,
Make
you're
them
right.
Sit there.
You're
Make them
right.
all sit there in a row. The dogs and the cat. Are y'all listening? Pay
Everybody,
attention.
Pay attention. Hey, AC, quit barking.
Just going to say,
You're gonna miss something.
Higgins wants his dogs back.
Oh, from
Damn.
Magnum
It's
PI.
Magnum PI.
Come on.
You have two Dobermans.
I've never watched
I call them
Magnum
Apollo
PI.
and Zeus. You have never watched Magnum?
Never watched Magnum.
You've missed out.
I'm
You've
so
missed
sorry.
out.
Maybe on spring break we'll have a Magnum PI.
Maybe we'll just enjoy our time in St. Thomas instead of sitting in front of a TV.
Maybe.
Just saying.
All right, so where are we with
Doesn't- if it
affidavits?
rains
Are we
really
done
hard.
talking about? Have we beat
Well,
affidavits to death?
so here's my problem with affidavits, though.
Yeah.
Everybody says they hate them, but sometimes there's no other basis to modify custody. And if you have
right.
kids who are adamant, I really want to live with this parent because of whatever,
Right,
we don't get along, whatever the case may be,
right.
what else are we to do? Because you get all this guff when we
Yeah.
were listening about how it's not great to do affidavits and affidavits are terrible, but sometimes they're your only option.
I also like affidavits coupled with other reasons.
Other
Sure.
I don't like them by themselves.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Dad got caught with the hooker,
Right.
and the kid was in the car, and the kid signed an affidavit. I like it.
I don't even think you need the affidavit at that point, though, if the reasons are that good.
Well,
But
and that's
if
what
your affidavit's
opponents
the
of
best
affidavits
thing?
would say.
Who
That.
takes
Yeah.
their teenager with them to get a hooker?
I think you'd be surprised.
Yeah, I think you'd be surprised.
I really think probably more people
Were they
than you
watching
think.
Netflix?
And-
Were they
and-
catching? Did
And
they
by the
leave?
way, it's sex worker. We have to get the proper nomenclature.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we got to be a little more sensitive to that.
I'm really disturbed about you guys. Non-PC over here.
Wait, so I gave an
Sorry.
example of affidavits being abused. Have you guys seen? Have you guys had examples?
Yes, I've seen it.
Give
I've
me an
seen it.
example.
None comes to
You got
mind.
nothing. You got
I'll
nothing.
think about
Now,
it for
you
a
guys
second.
are aware. The law changed a couple years ago that a child cannot sign a second affidavit of
Yes.
election.
It can't be the basis.
Right.
Right.
So
Get one.
Yeah, and I think it's within a 1 year or 2 year period. I think it's 2 year.
I think it's a 2-year period.
Yeah.
I figured out the trick to that. When they sign that affidavit, just photocopy it. Then you got more than one copy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Solid.
That's
Hey,
not-
if you scan it, you have infinite copies because you just hit print as many times as you want.
All right. We're digressing. It's horrible. No. Look, if you're gonna get, and I love people who call me and say, "Well, my kid signed an affidavit." I was like, "In front of what notary and what attorney?" No, I just signed it. Well, that ain't gonna work.
I got one time that was a handwritten one by the child, and it
Yeah.
was like a list,
Yeah.
and it was like essentially all the reasons I don't want to live with the other parent, not just like why I want to live with this parent. Like, damn.
It's sad.
Well, so this was filed as a pro se. They weren't great. I mean, it was pretty trivial stuff because, again, coming from a teenager, but even still, it's like,
Yeah.
damn.
We're having a good time. We're sitting here, comfort of our office, talking and joking a lot. But to present a child with an affidavit is a serious matter, and it's a sad thing to do.
is.
Yeah.
It is. And I'm happy to say that in the probably over 1,000 cases now I've had, it really isn't prevalent. It doesn't come up very often, and I'm happy to say that.
Well, and because a lot of people understand that you are absolutely injecting your kid right in the middle of the
Literally
litigation.
right in the
A lot
middle.
of parents don't care.
No,
True.
no, no.
A lot of don't care.
Oh,
And
no,
usually,
there's some real psychopaths
and usually,
out there that don't care.
to your point, Steve, usually if I have, a case like that, I will try not to file the affidavit.
Right.
I'll try to just kind of like hold it back.
Oh, there's a question. Have you ever gotten an affidavit, not filed it, sent it to the other side and said, I'm not going to file this, I don't want to file it?
Yeah.
You have done that?
I have done that.
I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, and
do.
said let's just
Yeah,
settle
no,
this.
I've done
Let's just
that
resolve this.
because
Oh,
the
I
other
get it.
side had filed a modification based on something else, and I was like, listen, here's what I've got as far as the
Oh.
kid, and what you're seeking is not
Okay,
gonna
do
go
you
down.
think a child would sign an affidavit because their parent, their dad, has just such bad dad jokes?
I think
It
it's
could
possible.
it could happen.
Yeah.
All right.
not
We
out of the realm of
took our
possibility.
daughter to Germany and France a
That's
few years
nacho.
ago.
That's nacho
Not your
custody
concern.
anymore.
Right? No, we
Not your
took Molly
custody.
to Germany and France, and one day we went into France from Germany, and we're over there having lunch in a French, mall
It was
or
Colmar.
bakery,
It was
Colmar,
Colmar.
France. Yeah,
We were walking around.
yeah,
shops
walking around,
and stuff.
and we're sitting there at lunch, and I look at Molly, who was about 10 at the time, 10 or 11, and I said, Molly, we were going to give you up for adoption, and there's a couple that's been following us, watching you from a distance to see how you act and how you behave, and I'm sorry to tell you, they went with their second choice.
They waved us
a
off.
a little boy from Somalia. And Molly, who's like 10 or 11, right there with me and my cousin, his wife, and Patty, looks at me without missing a beat, and she goes, Mom, why didn't you go with your second choice? And I mean, my cousin and his
Hey,
wife,
I fell out of my
my
chair.
cousin and his wife are not even native English speakers. They speak it really good, but not native speakers. And Molly delivered it so well at like 11 or 10 still.
Yeah.
And everybody just burst out laughing. And those
I
are
think
the
she must have been younger than that because she was 10 in 2020.
It was 2019.
Yeah, so she was
Summer
probably 9.
2019.
Yeah.
How old
So
was she?
it was
Probably
it was
still not.
She was 9.
She was
She
9.
was about
right.
to turn 10.
It was a month
Yep.
before she turned 10. Yeah.
Yeah, but
That's that.
our listeners should also know that Molly is the child from the age of like 3. We kept telling her, we being me mostly, hey, when you turn 6, we're going to cook you up and eat you on
Just
the
like your
grill,
other sister-
just like your
your
older
sister.
older sister who's
Polly.
no longer with us, Polly. Yeah, remember that?
Yeah, and in case anybody's wondering, we really did not cook up Polly and eat her.
Right,
There was no Polly.
right, because there is a statute of limitations on that.
Yeah, are we
Even in
within
Georgia.
the statute of limitations?
Yes, we would be. All right, so real quick before we're done,
Murder? Yeah.
before we're done, my hero of the week is this little hole in the wall in Tucker, Georgia, where we live, Shorty's Pizza.
Yeah.
That fed me all the way through law school, all those years.
It's a great.
It's a
food.
great place. It's kind of a dive to look at, but the food is awesome. The staff is good. And you can go to the bar in Shorty's and sit there and have dinner and meet people. And meet some of the
You can do that a lot of places.
Yes, but no, there's nothing like
That's
Shorty's.
not exclusive to
Yeah,
Shorty's.
yeah, no,
There's
it's not
nothing.
exclusive to
First of all,
Shorty's.
some of the best pizza in Atlanta, most interesting atmosphere. You've been there many times.
Many times.
And we were there, just 2 nights ago?
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
met, what was her name?
Kelly.
Kelly, who dubbed herself the lipstick lesbian.
Yeah, so Kelly's telling me she tells me she has a wife, and she's telling me that they call her a lipstick lesbian, and I was like, Kelly, I don't know what that means.
I learned a new word.
And so she's explained to me. She's like, well, this is per Kelly. I don't know. She says, well, it's when you're like a feminine lesbian and you're attracted to other feminine lesbians. And then she goes on to say, she's like, but I don't really like lipstick. She's like, so I'm more like a lip gloss lesbian. Yeah, and I thought, well,
That's not one I'm familiar with.
You
I
know,
was like, okay, I'd be like I would be like a chapstick.
Still-
lesbian.
No, you would be a lip service lesbian.
No.
so still my favorite thing that has ever happened at Shorty's. This was like
2017, right
like
before Steve
2
left,
days
or 6
before your last deployment.
Yeah.
And this poor waitress,
Oh, bless
she
her
might have been
heart.
18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
Just
She had like just started working there too.
Yeah.
She had to
like-
be 21. to
Yeah,
serve
she was
alcohol.
serving. Yeah.
okay. Regardless, she had not been doing this long,
No.
and Steve ordered a rum and coke.
My
His
go-to
signature
drink.
drink.
My
And she
signature, yeah.
walks up to the table with a glass of rum and a glass of coke.
And set them both
just
down.
sets them down in front of him. And Steve just looks at it.
You don't even know what
And
to
then-
say.
No, and Steve just looks at it, looks at her, kind of looks around the table,
Looks
looks
at
at
us,
it
we
again,
look at
looks
it,
at
we
her,
look at her.
and he goes,
And then together.
I wanted them together.
In the same
In the
glass.
same
And
glass.
exactly how much
And-
does a full water glass of rum cost?
Well,
Hey.
and, and she just looks at it and was like,
Wow.
never heard of that. It's just one of
her
those
heart.
things where you
Bless
just
her
wanted to
heart.
say,
I wonder where she is
I
now.
love
Oh,
I
sweetie.
love Shorty's Pizza.
Oh,
I've
sweetie.
been going to Shorty's Pizza since about 2003 or 4, so over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's still there. I love it. I go there all the time, and I can
That's
actually
never happened
say
any other time.
I can actually say at one point in time, I think I had represented everybody who was working at Shorty's at that time. Not now, but at one point in time, one girl, really neat lady, Rachel is her first name. And she talks to me one day while she's working at the bar. She's like, I need to hire you for a divorce. She says, we've been together about a year, but we never had a ceremony. We never got a license. We don't have anything in our joint names. I was like,
You're not married,
you're
Rachel.
not married, Rachel. You're good to go.
Yeah.
That's the least expensive representation. You're free. You can go. Okay.
Have a nice night.
Send her a bill.
Yeah, send her a bill. Here, $1,000.
For what, $3?
$1,000. No, I'm just kidding. No, I love Shorty's Pizza, and if you're
And-
ever in
and-
Tucker, Georgia, eat there.
And shout out to Kelly, the lipstick
The
lesbian.
lipstick
go.
lip gloss lesbian.
Lip
The
gloss, there you go.
She actually was pretty cool.
All right, Shewmaker and Lewis ending another riveting episode. This one was on Affidavits of Election.
And-
Shewmaker and Lewis, Atlanta, Georgia.
That's it for this episode of Lawyers Without Billboards. If you found this episode helpful, make sure to follow and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. For more resources or to get in touch with us, visit shoemakerandlewis.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.